Gino Paoli, an astrological portrait of Ciro Discepolo. Since that fateful July 13th, 1963, Gino Paoli has lived as if in an hourly hotel. Since the day he shot himself in the heart and miraculously survived, every morning has been for him a new interval of time snatched from death, a temporary mortgage on life, comparable precisely to the episodic occupation of a room in an hourly hotel. His fundamental perspective has changed. No longer a romantic vision of life, but a greater awareness of his own existential role in relation to internal growth. When he took his derringer and shot himself, Saturn was transiting Saturn in his birth chart, thus marking an inner evolution through a great ordeal. The star is in the 12th house. In his new life, he has abandoned the existentialist cliché of an unshaven face and large glasses to shield himself from the world, and has become a composed, less anxious and profound man. He is still tormented, but he pursues happiness in vain. In vain, because in his objectivity, happiness passes through the 7th house of the horoscope, that of sociality, and reality teaches us that one cannot build by considering the feelings of others as the foundation. Like all those who invest their energies in a relationship, he lives like a tightrope that can snap if the other person fails. Gino Paoli was born in Monfalcone, Gorizia, on September 23, 1934 at approximately 5 p.m. He is a Virgo with Pisces ascendant and the moon in Aries, opposite the sun. The sun, along with the Venus-Neptune conjunction, is in the 7th house, contributing to the ego's inflated relational needs, aggravated by the pathos with which he experiences them, which can be traced primarily to the sun-moon opposition, a stumbling block on the path to healthy love. Had he been a lawyer, he would certainly have experienced his 7th house more positively, but the presence of Venus there ruled out its applicability in this sense, and instead steered him toward more sentimental shores. With these values and a Pisces ascendant, he could have also pursued nursing, but the 2nd house in Taurus directed him first toward painting and then toward song. This professionally, but with an underlying orientation aimed at enjoying interpersonal relationships to the fullest, and this is why his songs speak so much of love. The Gino Paoli before the shooting and the one after are the same. For them, above all, there's a great desire for love. The sun in the horoscope, as the greatest significator of libido, behaves like a red rag before the eyes of the bull. It is an irresistible magnet. The subject's sun is in the 7th house, and therefore his magnetic core consists of everything that falls within the scope of what can be defined as relationships. However, Venus is poorly placed in the 7th house in Virgo and conjunct Neptune, which along with the sun-moon opposition indicates his unhappiness. Proof of this comes from the key episode in his life. The suicide attempt that 17 years ago left a bullet in his heart, or near it. This fact has always been obscured by a complete fog, stifling any attempt at understanding. The Genoese-born singer-songwriter maintained absolute secrecy about the matter for many years, only to recently say he did it solely because he had everything at the time and was no longer stimulated by anything, a product of boredom, therefore, a Scandinavian-style suicide. However, many said at the time that the motive was a disappointment caused by Stefania Sandrelli, with whom he was deeply in love. The planetary transits for that date clearly support this theory. In fact, his horoscope contains no trace of a gesture made with Anglo-Saxon coldness, but rather under the sway of strong emotional pressures related to his romantic situation. The insane act occurred when the transiting moon was in the radical house, in the first house and in Aries, impulsivity, instinct, thoughtlessness. Saturn, as mentioned, was on the first degree of the radix, in the 12th, and heralded a major test. Uranus vibrated exactly on the cusp of the 7th house and recalled a significant event in his love life. Anyone with a background in astrology knows what this means. Finally, Venus and Mercury were passing in bad aspects over his natal 5th house, the house of love. A more explicit situation could hardly be possible. This is set solely to highlight the role love plays in this man's life. Interestingly, his 2 children were both born the year after the near tragedy, as if he wanted to compensate for a life that was about to end with 2 new lives. Stefania Sandrelli gave him a daughter, Amanda, while his wife gave him a son, Giovanni. With his wife, Anna Maria Fabbri, whom he married in 1958, he enjoys a close friendship, which even allows for occasional romantic flings without serious consequence for their relationship. Venus conjunct Neptune in the 7th house is a sign of sentimental diversions, and Paoli has had more than one such diversion. Among the most famous are Stefania Sandrelli, Ornella Vanoni, and Mia Martini. The sad poet also owes his romantic legend to the Venus-Neptune conjunction, which, with Neptune as ruler of the ascendant, makes him a great dreamer who sings songs like Senza Fine, his most famous song, with over 500 recordings worldwide. He began singing almost by accident in 1960 while painting in an attic, as befits any self-respecting bohemian painter, and working as a graphic designer for 60,000 lire a month. He has recorded wonderful songs such as Il cielo in una stanza, La gatta, his first song, Sassi, Sapore di sale, and Lei sta con te. He is a twilight singer for whom the sun never sets behind the horizon. He is still in high demand today, especially among young people. A very significant episode in this regard occurred a few years ago in Ravenna, in the midst of the autonomous climate that was setting concerts ablaze. Tension in the Ravenna racecourse, where the concert, organized by the Communist Youth Federation, was being held, was at its highest when Gino Paoli began singing Sapore di sale. As if by magic, a deep silence fell, and only occasionally could thunderous applause and expressions of enthusiasm be heard. The reason for this evergreen singing season lies, according to the Ligurian composer, in the fact that he has always crafted his songs from the heart, with great sincerity and with a belief in what he wrote. Perhaps this is why Vanoni sees him as a child, and he says that if being a child means having a big heart, then he's happy to be a child. Speaking of the heart, it's interesting to note how malefic Mars in the 6th house and in Leo indicates the danger his heart faced. Jupiter in the 8th house opposite Uranus instead speaks of his good fortune in relation to a sudden threat of death. The bullet lodged against a vertebra, just millimeters from the heart, and its removal was never attempted, given the high risk involved. The risks for Gino Paoli, however, don't come only from this, but also from car accidents, Mercury opposite Uranus. Several years ago he had some very serious ones, and his license was revoked several times. In one of the most serious, on September 20th, 1962, a friend of his lost his life, and he was convicted of manslaughter. Those were more turbulent times for him, in which the restlessness of Aries and the painful sensitivity of Pisces played a major role. Later, after the aforementioned transit of Saturn on his natal Saturn and ascendant, a new path of greater maturity began. In the coming months, Saturn will once again be on the singer's radical sun, and this represents another important stage in his life, likely accompanied by some existential trials. This new important transition will likely serve to further temper the anarchy that characterizes him, due mostly to a sense of dissatisfaction, and will contribute to his withdrawal of energy from the seventh house, a key area for his evolution. He recently recorded a new LP that gathers together 5 years of compositions and has written a children's book. His dream is to own a large boat so he can live on the sea he loves, like a true Pisces. While waiting to make it a reality, he sails on the waves of his Piscean emotions as vast as the ocean. Ciro Discepolo, many years ago,